Is it hard to keep up with class? How much did you pay for it? Would you say it's a bit right-leaning? Do you regret going to LSE? Hi guys, it is Imogen here, and as I've already mentioned in part 1 of this video, today we are going to be answering your questions about LSE. If you like the sound of this video, do give it a massive thumbs up, subscribe to my channel to see more LSE content, and without further ado, let's just jump into your questions. The next question is anything about societies at LSE. I haven't heard much about the student community. This is kind of funny because I've actually only joined one society at LSE, and I think I'm quite a social person. Like, I really was excited to get involved in societies, but since I've started university, they've literally just been Zoom meetings apart from the sports societies. But even then, they only did a few weeks before they were then sent back online. However, next year, when they're in person and it's not just another Zoom call to add to my day, I'm super excited to get involved. I really want to join a sports society. Now, I'm not a sporty person, but if you've got any recommendations for like an easy, maybe unusual sport that I could try next year, do let me know. Someone has asked, what is the reading week? I realised I mentioned this in my last video, my evening routine video, but reading week is basically a week that you have in the middle of term. I think only the humanities students have this. So if you do, for example, geography with economics, you'll only have reading week for your geography subjects. And it's basically like half term, so you don't have any lectures, you don't have any classes, you basically get a week off in the middle of term. Obviously, I've only had one reading week so far, and last time we didn't get set any extra reading. It was more like catch up week and do your essays, because a lot of essays will be due in that week or the last week of term. However, I'm about to have my second reading week, and honestly, it's so needed. It's just a chance to catch up on all the reading you might have missed. The next question is your uni experience different to others, do you think? Now, there's two ways I could answer this. We can either look at like corona and non-corona times, in which case, yes, it is very different. Obviously, we can't socialise as much as normal, and I'm sitting at my desk at home all day, every day, when I would love to be in London. The second way we can look at this is LSE as a university different from other universities and kind of the experience of those? And I think I'd say yes. Obviously, I've already talked about the workload. It's very intense. And I find, as a general rule, my friends don't have quite as much to do each week. They also don't seem to have as many contact hours on the whole. And these are friends, some of them go to Russell Group University, some of them don't. And just generally, I found that my workload is very different. Also, in terms of friendships, they seem to have found it maybe slightly easier. I mean, again, that links to the COVID year. Most of my friends are in second year because I took a gap year. But they also seem to have found it easier. I think that maybe links to the fact that they're on a campus university, and LSE is a bit more like spread around the city. So I only really seem to know people either on my course or from my halls at the moment. The next question is, would you say it's a bit right-leaning? For example, like Durham or Oxbridge, or are people there quite liberal? On the whole, I would say it is quite liberal. However, obviously, we've just answered a question about are people rich, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're right-leaning, but there is some sort of correlation there. I think that's quite obvious to say. And so I guess there are people who have like come from more affluent backgrounds and therefore maybe are typically more right-leaning in their politics. I completely understand why you've asked this question. I'd be quite curious to hear the answer to this, but I guess the thing that I really want to stress is that I have such a wide range of friends from LSE. Some of them are very right-leaning and some of them are very liberal in their views, and we can have discussions about these sorts of things, but it doesn't affect our like personal relationships with each other. And I think that's so important. Just because someone has a certain politics, it really doesn't mean you can't be friends with them. And that is something that I really strongly believe in. The next question seems to be 3 questions rolled into one. So we're going to deal with them each individually. It's how much did you pay for it? So I pay £9,250 a year for LSE, and that is the standard like UK fees. However, I do have a student loan, so I don't actually pay that. I'm getting a loan at the moment, and then I'll pay it back later in life. The next part is, why did you choose it? I chose LSE because I knew I wanted to be in London, because I quite like being near to home. I also have quite a lot of friends in London who study at other universities, and I quite liked the idea of being able to see them and also get to go and see my other friends, because the transport links from London are really good. But generally, I just really liked the course at LSE. It's only human geography, and I think pretty much every other geography course in the country does involve some sort of physical and human geography, and I'm just not so much a fan of the physical side of things. Actually, it was really funny you've asked that, because 4 years ago today, I think, was the first ever time I went to LSE. They run a public lecture series, and I actually went to one of their lectures, and that was the first time I kind of heard about LSE. I went there, I really enjoyed the lecture, and then when I'd said to people, oh, like I went to this, they were like, oh, LSE, that's a really good university. So I kind of heard about its reputation first, and then when I was looking into universities during my kind of mid-gap year crisis, when I decided I didn't want to do the course I'd applied for, I went back to the LSE website and I was looking at the Environment and Development Programme, and I kind of liked it, but I was like, oh, I'm not sure that's entirely for me. And then that's when I came across the geography course. And the final part of this question is, what other universities did you apply for? And I actually applied kind of 3 times, because I applied twice for UK universities, once for politics and once for geography, and that was mainly London universities. But the first time I applied for university, I applied to Dutch University. There are a couple of videos on my channel about that if you're interested. And also in my Where Am I Going to University like reveal video, I talk you through all the different universities I applied to and why I chose them. The next question is kind of linked to all of the like money ones we've had before, and that is, how much money is enough to spend during the study at LSE, not including school tuition? So I assume this is like living costs for London. Now, I did talk you through my living costs for first term, however, I don't think that's very representative of like a non-COVID time in London. This really does depend on how extravagant your lifestyle is and what you're kind of getting up to whilst you're in London. But you've got to remember, during non-COVID times, I'd probably be going out more, probably to the theatre. I mean, that's literally on our doorstep in London. I'd still be shopping at Lidl. Lidl has a very special place in my heart, but I literally have Tottenham Court Road and Oxford Street like 10 minutes away from my halls. So I'd probably be going out to buy clothes because I'd be going out more often. It wouldn't just be living in joggers and leggings like I do at the moment. And so I think my spending would be a little bit different and definitely on the more expensive side. The next question is kind of something I've wanted to talk about for a little while on my channel, and that is it hard to keep up with class? And yes, there's a lot of time where I sit there and I think, I haven't got a clue what is going on at the moment. And that is because LSE is obviously working at quite a high level. Every single student has A's or A stars who are there, and that means that the kind of level that the work is set at is already really, really high. And it is very easy to get lost when you don't really understand like what the arguments we're talking about are. In the first bit of first term, and just first term generally, to be honest, I really struggled with imposter syndrome. In fact, no, I think I struggle with this more when I've been online. So like now I actually find that my imposter syndrome is worse than when I was in London, because I just feel like when you're online, you're so detached and it's really hard to make connections with people in the same way as when you're in person. When you're all sat there thinking, I haven't got a clue what's going on today, it's kind of okay. But when you're kind of sat at home and you're not really talking to any other students, it's quite difficult to reason with yourself and be like, you're not the only one that doesn't understand this. You're not the only one who hasn't got a clue what is going on this week. And I think that can be quite difficult at times. Also, the amount of reading is just like intense. Once you've done one, you're on to the next one. Like, it constantly feels like you're on a treadmill. I get to maybe Friday and I finish my work for the week and I'm like, okay, but now you've got to start on next week's work to stay ahead. It's this constant battle with keeping on top of everything. The next question is, what's the best advice to get in, especially for accounting and finance degrees? Now, obviously I do geography, which a lot of LSE students would argue is just colouring in. So maybe I'm not in the best place to answer this question about accounting and finance. But in terms of the best advice for getting in, I'd just say, look at my how to get into LSE video, because I gave you all the tips that I know in that video. And if you do an exceptional personal statement and you have the grades, then you really have given yourself the best chance of getting in. The next question is another one about applications, and that is it compulsory to sit for the undergraduate admissions assessment? And the answer to this is no, it's not compulsory. However, it will be compulsory for some of you. So the undergraduate admissions assessment is basically like a standardized test that LSE have. And if they don't really understand your qualifications, or they're not sure that your qualifications cover all of the content that you're going to need for LSE, then they will ask you to do the undergraduate admissions assessment, which happens in March every year. There is loads of information about this on the website, by the way, and I'm going to link some of the website links in the description box down below, so do go and have a look at that. And basically you just have to sit this assessment to check that you're at the right level to apply to LSE. UK students will not be asked to do the UGAA, it is purely for certain international students. There are 2 questions that are really linked, and that is LSE a toxic and competitive environment, and is it supportive? Now, I have found that LSE is nothing but supportive. The support that has been given to us all through COVID and things like that, which has been a really tricky time, has been really good. I've had deadline extensions offered to me on my summative essays that have been due in. The department are really working hard to make sure we feel part of something, and part of LSE, that's the kind of like slogan for LSE at the moment. However, the competitive and toxic kind of nature of LSE was something I was worried about before coming. I remember I was on the student room forums last year waiting for my offer, and it was so toxic on there. People were really nasty and rude. And I do think this is kind of because they can hide behind a screen and things like that. But when you get there, I genuinely haven't found any students that are nasty or toxic. And I don't think it's as toxic or competitive as people have made it out to be. Maybe this is just my personal experience, but obviously when you ask me these questions, that's all I can give you. So I don't think it's a particularly toxic environment. I don't think it's particularly competitive. However, I do think that might be different depending on the course you're on. And the final question is, do you regret going to LSE? There are definitely days when I sit there and I think, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Like, honestly, why did I sign up for this? But then there are other days when I sit, mainly through my German classes. I absolutely love German at LSE. When I sit there and we have the best teachers, I have such a good relationship with them and they're so supportive. And I'll sit there and I'll just think, you know what? This is honestly where I want to be. This is what I want to be doing. And I'll really enjoy it. So I think on the whole, no, I don't regret going. I do find the parts of my course hard, particularly the geography side of my course, which is kind of the bit that I actually signed up for. And I think online learning is certainly difficult. I mean, I've talked about this all through this video.
There's some chips downstairs.
Thanks, George. But on the whole, LSE is fantastic. They've been nothing but supportive. The class sizes are excellent. They're so small. I think I have like max 15 students in a class at the moment. And it's just like a really, really nice university. I love the fact it's a small university. I cannot wait to go back to London and really be able to experience it for what it is. I could just do without the workload sometimes, and honestly, the main goal at the moment is like, get to reading week. I want to share my honest opinion with you, and studying online right now isn't fantastic. However, I really hope that you have enjoyed this video nonetheless. Give it a big thumbs up if you have, and do comment down below if you've got any other questions about LSE, or send me a DM over on Instagram. I answer them all. Good luck to all of you awaiting offers. Fingers crossed we'll all be back on campus in September and I'll see some of you around. But I hope you have a super day nonetheless, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!